6 top tips for getting a blog optimized on your website. A blog is an absolutely brilliant way of answering patients' questions and then driving them through to your main website where the magic happens. So 6 tips for getting your blog working effectively. Tip number 1 is have the blog on your website, not somewhere else. Don't create a Medium blog or a blog somewhere else. Create a blog on your website. So it will be something along the lines of yourdentalpractice.com/blog. You may need to speak to your web developers to do that. Tip number 1, absolutely, your blog must be on your website. Tip number 2 is phrase blog posts as answers to questions. So if you're going to talk about dental implants, don't just title your blog post dental implants. Phrase it as a question. How many dental implants will I need? Do dental implants hurt? Can I have dentures and dental implants? What is the dental implant procedure like? So answer questions, because that is what people type into Google. They type questions into Google, and we want Google to recognize your blog, which it will, and notice that that is exactly what your blog is about, and Google can then send people to your blog post. Tip number 3 is no selling. Do not try to sell anything in your blog post. Your blog post is there to inform and educate and hand out useful, good quality, relevant information. When you do that, people will share it. When they share it, you get more people to the blog, and that then gets a virtuous circle going of more people, more people, more people. People will not share your blog post if you've done a load of selling on it. So by all means, at the end of the blog post, have a little sentence which says, at XYZ Dental Apprentice, we can help with, here's a link to request an appointment. But the rest of the blog post focus 100% on the patient and how to answer the patient's problems. Tip number 4 links in with this, is to create links from your blog post into the main pages of your website. So for example, let's say on your blog you are talking about cosmetic dentistry, and the blog post might be titled, what are the different types of cosmetic dentistry? You may talk about veneers, bonding, inlays and teeth whitening. Now when you talk about teeth whitening from the blog post, link to the teeth whitening page on your website. When you talk about veneers, link to the veneers page. When you talk about bonding, link to the bonding page. The linking to the relevant page on your website, that's where the sales happens. That's where the patients request an appointment from, and they've clicked through to an area they're interested in, say veneers, then they request an appointment. So no selling on the website, on the blog, but link from the blog to the main pages of your website. Tip number 5 is link out from your blog to other websites. We want this blog post to become the most useful resource. Let's say it's about dental implants and it's about the number of dental implants. We want this blog to be the most useful resource in Google, to say, this is brilliant. Look at all the questions they answer, and they don't try to sell anything, and they link out to other useful resources. So for example, you might talk about where dental implants started, you might talk about Professor Bronnemark, and you might link to some research by Professor Bronnemark. You might then talk within the blog post perhaps about osseointegration, and you don't want to do a massive detailed thing about osseointegration within the blog post, but you could link out to another website that references osseointegration. That makes your blog post genuinely useful. Google's algorithm is very clever. When it knows your blog post is genuinely useful and you're not just trying to sell something, Google will send more traffic. And tip number 6 is to do your research on Google. So for example, let's say you're going to do your blog post that says, how many dental implants will I need? Type that into Google, scroll down on the page, and you will see people also search for. Use those as subheadings within your blog post. You will see lots of questions related to the main phrase. So the main phrase, how many dental implants do I need? Or do dental implants hurt? Scroll down, that's your main title. People also ask, they can become subheadings. Then scroll right down to the very bottom and Google will say related searches. Use some of those phrases as related searches in your blog post. So quick summary. 6 top tips. Tip number 1, keep your blog on your website. Tip number 2, answer questions. Tip number 3, no selling. Tip number 4, link to the main pages of your website, which is where the selling happens. Link number 5, link out from your website to other genuinely useful resources. Tip number 6, do your research on Google.